Hello everyone. If you've been diligently reading Pressman, you know that he has a series of scripts in almost every chapter. It follows the evolution of a software project, and Pressman uses it to illustrate the points in the chapter. So I took the liberty of making a storyboard out of this script. But as I quickly found out, even the scripts in the first 5 chapters were way too long to storyboard. So, like they do in Hollywood, I eliminated some characters, condensed the dialogue, and finally managed it so I only had to make 6 panels. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the characters in this script are Mal. He's the CEO of the company that wants to create the software. Then there's Lee. He's the engineering manager, and he came up, or his team came up, with the little hardware device that motivated the product in the first place. Then there's Doug. Doug is the software engineering manager, and he has a team of 3 software developers: Vinod, Jamie, and Eddie. Okay, so the first scene takes place in Mal's office. Lee just showed him the wireless box his team came up with that will hopefully make some money for the company. Here, Mal is telling Lee that he's excited about the device. And Lee is describing his vision of the safe home system that is going to let people control all aspects of their home from their computers, like their security system, their heating system, and so on. The point of this little exchange is that it's a hardware device, a small wireless box that's going to motivate the software development. In this exchange, Mal asks Lee about the software, and what Lee says kind of foreshadows the conversations that will take place in later slides. First, the software is going to be a challenge. It's something the software team may not have done before. And second, he's sure that the software development team can handle it. Okay, so now Lee goes and talks to Doug, who's the software engineering manager, to tell him about this grand vision he has for the Safe Home project. Doug seems a little hesitant, and from what he's thinking, it seems like they've never really taken on a project of this size and complexity before. That idea is reinforced in this conversation between Doug and 2 of his developers. Doug just finished telling Eddie and Vinod about the project, and he's also begun educating them on different types of process models that they can choose from. One of the models he mentions is the prototyping model. Eddie sees a connection between the prototyping model and the way they've been developing projects in the past. Well, that's not a good thing. Remember that prototyping often produces a quick and dirty demo that's typically used to nail down requirements, and it's rarely used as a model. Vinod is suspicious that the prototyping model approach will work for this project, and he suggests that they take a look at other approaches with a little bit more structure. Doug sides with Vinod and tells them not to worry because there's a lot of other options. In this scene, Doug is just finishing up telling Lee and a couple of his developers about the spiral model, which has an evolutionary flow. Vinod and Jamie like the idea, and Jamie makes the comment that they can get customer feedback after each iteration and then adjust the plan accordingly. But not everyone is happy about this. In particular, Lee is a bit nervous to hear that the plan might have to be adjusted periodically. He's especially nervous about taking this news to management, because management is going to want one plan that does not change. Doug gives his friend some encouragement, and perhaps he's secretly grateful that he's not the one that has to deal with management. In this frame, Jamie and Vinod had just come back from a conference on agile development and extreme programming, and they're trying to convince Doug that Agile is the way to go. Now, Doug is of two minds on extreme programming. One thing he likes about it is that the customer is part of the team and that developers and customers are going to have to work together daily. But when Vinod hears this, it makes him a little bit nervous. He's afraid that the customers, which in this case probably means somebody from marketing, are going to be making changes to their requirements every 5 minutes. Jamie tries to calm her friend down by saying, embrace the change. And Doug starts talking about what he doesn't like about extreme programming. The fact that there's not a lot of emphasis on analysis and design. The focus, he says, is on writing code. Of course, Jamie and Vinod love this idea because writing code is what they do. Doug understands it, but he's going to draw a line in the sand when it comes to analysis and design. He wants to make sure that the development team is going to spend a reasonable amount of effort on analyzing the problem and working on a good design. To which Vinod replies, hey, maybe we can have it both ways. Agility with a little discipline. Doug is definitely on board for this. I think we can, Vinod, he says. In fact, I'm sure of it. And this is the abbreviated script. I would suggest to you that this is really all you need to understand where Pressman is coming from with respect to project development. He's sympathetic to the structure of prescriptive models, but he's not sure if they can accommodate change all that well. Conversely, he likes the flexibility of agile development, but he's nervous that they might skimp on the modeling phase of software development. And finally, he's not particularly beholden to any one type of process. Adapt a process to fit your need. That's what Pressman would say. Okay, I'll leave you with this slide. Let me warn you that this one has nothing to do with the Pressman script. However, if you want your movie to make a lot of money in Hollywood, you have to have a villain and car chases and, explosions and things like that. So I'm going to make Eddie my villain. He's had a rough past, so he's a sympathetic villain, which, is usually a good thing. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, this was a very rough overview of the Safe Home script from up to Chapter 5. I strongly encourage you to reread these Safe Home scripts one after the other as they appear in Pressman. They often give you a good overview of the kinds of things that Pressman thinks are important. And that's all for this module. In the next module, we'll start talking about the analysis model and the diagrams used in creating that model.